Brazil was able to prosecute Bolsonaro and DOJ was not.
The former president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, was sentenced tonight to over 27 years in prison after a Supreme Court judgment earlier today.
Because of the way the Brazilian judicial system works, it seemed like the Bolsonaro investigation went much more quickly than it did.
Bolsonaro, who was president from 2019 to 2022, was found guilty of attempting to use military force to overturn an election and plotting to assassinate a political rival, the man who holds the presidency now, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Bolsonaro's investigation was 6 months faster than the investigation into Donald Trump. So, for example, his coup attempt January 8th, 2023, he was formally charged in February of 2025, which was 25 months. And he went to trial on September 2nd of this year. So that's 32 months to trial. Compare that with Donald Trump.
Let's bring up a photo of Judge Tanya Chutkin, the U.S. District Court judge in Washington, D.C.
She was randomly assigned this case and moved swiftly through the opening weeks of it and set a trial date for March 4th.
His coup attempt, January 6, 2021, he is charged August 1st, 2023.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
That's 31 months. So compare 25 months to charge to 31 months to charge. There was an earlier Brazilian, here's what you should charge, but he was formally charged by the Attorney General at 25 months.
If you remember, then when the appeals moved their way to the appeals court and ultimately to the Supreme Court, everything froze in place on February 6th.
So Trump would have gone to trial March 4th, 2024, which would be 38 months. Again, 6 months longer than the Bolsonaro case. But there are two things, either of which alone can explain why it took longer.
First tonight, COVID-19 is ravaging communities and courts are readjusting to the climate.
One is that COVID delayed everything by 14 months. The very first January 6th trial was 14 months after the insurrection. And that's because there were a bunch of people in jail awaiting their trial on January 6th, and they got to go ahead of the January 6ers. And then the second reason is executive privilege.
Donald Trump has said he's going to invoke executive privilege. I think he's going to lose if he tries to fight it in court. But you know what he's going to do? He's going to make it a mess, and he's going to drag it out.
So that fight started in June of 2022, and it went through April of 2023. So 14 months COVID delay, 10 months executive privilege delay. Both of those are longer than the 6 months difference between Bolsonaro and Donald Trump. Yeah, Brazil succeeded with a very different judicial system.
Brazil has had a history of coups and attempted coups, but this is the first time that we're going to see accountability.
It would not have taken that much longer to get Donald Trump to trial if not for John Roberts' intervention.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Don't forget.
And also because they had a way to disqualify him.
Bolsonaro has been banned from running for public office until 2030.
Again, going back to that March of 2024 decision.
The court has decided unanimously that the Colorado Supreme Court was wrong, that Donald Trump cannot be disqualified as a presidential candidate.
Where the Supreme Court said the only way to disqualify Donald Trump is if he has been convicted of insurrection. That made it impossible, effectively, to disqualify Donald Trump.